Metal in the 80s was explosive, but beyond the giants, some killer bands slipped through the cracks. Let's rewind and spotlight 10 that truly deserved more. If you were digging into the heavier side of metal in the 80s, Metal Church was that band you proudly told your friends about if they could handle it. Hailing from the Pacific Northwest, they dropped their self-titled debut in 1984, and it was an absolute beast. Gritty, technical, and emotionally charged. Beyond the Black and Gods of Wrath still send chills down your spine.
To stop the master plan.
They had the thrash energy of Metallica, but with more melodic touches and serious songwriting chops. David Wayne's vocals, intense and unrelenting, like a sermon from a doomsday preacher. Their second album, The Dark, kept the fire burning with tracks like Watch the Children Pray. Their history is marked by loss. David Wayne died in 2005, and Mike Howe's 2021 suicide hit hard. Through lineup shifts and heartbreak, Metal Church kept going. For fans, that persistence made them more than a band. It made them immortal. No polish, no mercy. Just pure Canadian violence on tape. Razor didn't want to be your friend. They wanted to cave your skull in with a guitar. When Evil Invaders dropped in 1985, it didn't ask for your attention. It took it by force. The title track alone feels like a hockey fight set to thrash riffs. And Stace, Sheepdog McLaren's vocals, spit-flecked howling fury. Dave Carlo's guitar work was relentless, and in true Warrior fashion, he kept shredding years later, even after cancer surgery, and losing part of his finger. That's not just dedication, that's feral obsession. Malicious intent and violent restitution kept the aggression cranked, never caving to trends or compromise. While the US and Germany got most of the credit for speed and thrash, Razor was up north, grinding it out, turning basements into battlegrounds. Ask any real thrash fan, Razor weren't just fast, they were lethal. Cloven Hoof weren't just a band, they were a mythology. Each member took on a character. Earth, water, fire, and air. It sounds over the top now, but in the early 80s, this kind of theatrical madness was exactly what set them apart. Their 1984 self-titled debut didn't just play, it conjured. Tracks like Gates of Gehenna and Return of the Passover weren't songs. They were spells forged in molten steel and Dungeons & Dragons lore. Hailing from Wolverhampton, they rode alongside the WOBHM movement, but leaned harder into fantasy, melody, and high drama. Vocalist Russ North later elevated their sound in A Sultan's Ransom in 1989, a cult masterpiece full of Iron Maiden-esque flair with a darker, more occult edge. They never broke out commercially, but that almost adds to the legend. Cloven Hoof didn't just play for crowds, they played for believers. The ones who knew the real magic was hidden underground. From the first scream of Hall of the Mountain King, you knew Savatage wasn't playing games. They didn't just perform, they unleashed. Hailing from Florida, the Oliva brothers turned metal into theater, fusing crushing riffs with piano lines and grandiose ambition. John's vocals had madness and soul, while Chris laid down solos that felt like they were telling stories of their own. Gutter Ballet, in 1989, flipped the script. Metal with Broadway flair and haunting beauty. Then came Streets, a full-on rock opera about addiction and redemption. At a time when most bands were chasing radio, Savatage chased art, and they nailed it, but their story turned tragic. Chris Oliva was killed by a drunk driver in '93. The metal world lost a genius. Yet the band endured, evolving into Trans-Siberian Orchestra with producer Paul O'Neill. From sweaty clubs to sold-out arenas, Savatage proved metal could be epic, emotional, and unforgettable. More metal coming your way. Like and subscribe to be the first to know. Agent Steel hit like a panic attack set to thrash metal. Formed in Los Angeles in 1984, they were faster than their peers, tighter than most, and absolutely obsessed with Cold War paranoia and conspiracy theories. While other bands sang about hellfire, Agent Steel warned you about the CIA hidden agendas and the shadow governments, and they did it at 200 beats per minute. Frontman John Sirius had a shrieking vocal range that split opinions but left no one indifferent. Tracks like Agents of Steel and The Day at Guyana weren't just fast. They were frenzied, like someone trying to warn the world before it was too late. Their albums Skeptic's Apocalypse and Unstoppable Force remain cult essentials in the speed metal world. Internal chaos, label issues, and Sirius's unpredictability derailed their rise, but for the faithful, Agent Steel was raw nerve and urgency. Metal that didn't party, it sounded the alarm. Jagdpanzer never wanted to be trendy. They wanted to be great. Formed in Colorado Springs in 1981, they were among the first US bands to embrace the power metal blueprint, soaring vocals, razor-sharp riffs, and lyrics that felt like battle cries. Their 1984 debut, Ample Destruction, didn't just make noise, it made statements. Songs like License to Kill and Generally Hostile were filled with aggression, melody, and ambition. The voice behind it all? Harry the Tyrant Conklin, one of the most underrated vocalists in metal history. His range, power, and theatrical delivery made every song feel epic. Guitarist Mark Bridie held down the band's core, keeping the ship steady through lineup changes and shifting metal trends. They didn't chase radio, and they didn't get flashy. They built a legacy the hard way. Album by album, show by show. For power metal diehards, Jagdpanzer isn't a hidden gem, they're a sacred name. If Motorhead had a wilder, drunker younger brother, it would have been Tank. Born out of the NWO-BHM movement in 1980 and fronted by Algie Ward, fresh off his stint with The Damned, Tank brought punk attitude and metal power into one explosive package. Their debut album, Filth Hounds of Hades in 1982, is a cult classic. Raw, snarling, and loud as hell. Songs like Shell Shock and He Fell in Love with a Stormtrooper weren't polished. They were real. You could smell the sweat and beer coming off the riffs. Tank never aimed for the charts. They were here to make noise, tear it up live, and leave a crater behind. The band's lineup changed constantly, and they were often overshadowed by flashier NWO-BHM acts, but their spirit never faded. Algie Ward kept the flame alive until his death in 2023. If you like your metal fast, filthy, and full of heart, Tank never disappoints. Manila Road wasn't built for the mainstream. They were built for legends. Formed in Wichita, Kansas in the late 70s, they toiled in obscurity while crafting a sound entirely their own. Their 1983 album Crystal Logic is now revered by collectors and cult fans alike. Raw production, galloping riffs, and Mark the Shark, Shelton's unmistakable nasal snarl, weaving tales of sorcery, battle, and ancient ruins. Tracks like Necropolis and The Riddlemaster sounded like a Conan comic brought to life with a Marshall stack. It wasn't polished, but that was the charm. You felt like you'd unearthed a lost relic every time you dropped the needle. They toured minimally, never chased trends, and barely registered in the mainstream, but in Europe and the tape trading underground, they were legends. Shelton kept it going until his death in 2018, on stage no less. That's how deep this ran. Manila Road wasn't a phase, it was a calling. Exciter was already lighting fuses before thrash broke into the mainstream. Formed in Ottawa in 1978, this Canadian power trio unleashed Heavy Metal Maniac in 1983, a record so fast and raw it practically exploded out of the speakers. It wasn't just loud, it was feral. Dan Beeler pulled double duty as drummer and vocalist, shrieking behind the kit like he was racing death itself. Tracks like Stand Up and Fight and Iron Dogs defined early speed metal. No frills, no mercy. They followed up with Violence and Force and Long Live the Loud, proving they weren't a fluke. They were a force. While Metallica and Slayer soared, Exciter stayed underground, never chasing fame but always delivering the goods. Their sound influenced a generation of speed and thrash bands, even if they rarely got credit. But in dingy clubs and die-hard collections, Heavy Metal Maniac still reigns, and it still rips. There was nothing subtle about Raven. They played like their amps were about to blow and the stage might collapse every night. Born in Newcastle in 1974, these guys were pure fire. Long before thrash had a name, Raven were laying the groundwork with chaotic energy and a no safety net live show that left jaws on the floor. Their early records, Rock Until You Drop In 1981 and Wiped Out in 1982, are non-stop blitzes of riffs and shrieking vocals. It wasn't just speed for speed's sake. It was fun, reckless, alive. Metallica and Anthrax opened for them. That's how deep their roots go. In 1984, they signed on for a U.S. arena tour with Ozzy and Whitesnake. Huge exposure, wrong crowd. Beer cups flew. They played faster, louder, refused to bend. Decades later, they're still grinding. New albums, global tours, no compromise. Raven never mellowed out. They just kept hammering away, one sweat-drenched gig at a time. They never topped the charts, but they shaped the sound. These bands mattered then, and they still matter now. Forgotten? Maybe. Gone? Never.